scepter in hand, the group travels to Camp Dawn. They make it there without too much incident, and at the gates they are asked to disarm, which our barbarian friend tries hard to intimidate out of, but fails. And they do end up disarming and are escorted to meet Ophelia. She is very delighted to see them again and accepts the scepter gratefully. As a reward, they each get 250 gold pieces, and Noct gets to choose 2 items from their armory. He chooses a new shield and a mace. Ophelia mentions to Noct that when she was in town yesterday, Flamekeeper Hannah was looking for him. He agrees to seek her out when he is next in town. Ophelia then mentions that if the group are willing, Theodore Marshall would like to speak to them about another task he has at hand. Theodore Marshall presents a very calm, respectful air. He tells them about the spokes, the industrial section of town when Drakkenheim flourished, which is now titled the Scar, for the large ravine that has been carved through the town from one of the offshoots of that meteor. Inside this are, of course, Spoke's smithy, which has recently come into the hands of some dwarves. These Iron Helm dwarves, as they call themselves, are mining and selling delirium. And the Silver Order wishes to stop that, of course. They would prefer not to harm the dwarves, merely convince them to leave. In fact, Theodore offers to pay more money or resources should they succeed in removing the dwarves without any bloodshed. He admits that might take some cunning, maybe sabotaging equipment or disrupting the facility somehow will do it. He's not sure. He also offers a little bit of caution, since he believes that the Queen's men are offering protection there. The group agree to see what they can do. They decide to return to Emberwood since they haven't been there in a couple days. And once they get there, they split the party, because why not? Ik and Noct go to River to speak with River from the Amethyst Academy. Ik really wants to join them. And with some of the information he found about Reed Manor, he wants to see if he can leverage it. River is very grateful for the information of the fallen party, but also slightly sad, of course. She then admits that she could use help. She explains that the group they found was staking out Reed Manor, the place they have determined that a malfeasant wizard named Oscar Yoren has holed up. He was expelled from the academy years ago due to his malpractice, and when he fled, he took valuable tomes and research with him. She would very much like those tomes back, as well as any additional research he may have on the delirium that might help them in their cause. She tells them that if they cannot find any notes, all that she really needs, of course, would be his brain. Ik is quick to agree to help, and Noct determines that this is something it could definitely handle. Meanwhile, Morgan, Delilah, and Zelda arrive at the Skull and Sword Tavern. They immediately start drinking. Delilah makes a speech about Harmon, upset that he even took the Rat Prince's head back, meaning that he is well and truly gone from the group. Morgan kind of zones out on Delilah's speech, and as she does so, she overhears another table chatting about a place called the Black Ivory Inn. Apparently, it's up and running again and in perfect condition in Drakkenheim. You can stop there and get a drink and everything. Morgan demands to know more, but that's all the information that patron has. Zelda tries to follow up to glean even more with a little intimidation, which just unsettles the patrons and make them scoot the whole table a little further away from them. Morgan also notices that Blackjack Mel is watching her. She stares him down until he blinks, and she wins the contested con roll, and he blinks first. Then he goes back to talking to one of his thug-like guards. Zelda tries to initiate a staring contest with him, but can't catch his eye. Morgan throws something in his direction, allowing Zelda to make eye contact, but Blackjack Mel just rolls his eyes and goes back to his conversation. At this point, Petra enters the bar. She is happy to see them and quickly asks them to come outside so that she can chat without some other people listening in. She tells them that she and the Hooded Lanterns have a couple of tasks if they're willing to take them. The first has to do with potion supply. She says an old strange wizard was sending them shipments of potions every week. Last week, he didn't send any at all. And the time before that, some of the potions were found to have been contaminated, which has never happened before. She wants the party to go to Reed Manor and see what's up. Morgan says, sure, we'll look into it. Petra also offers another slightly harder quest. She asked if they have heard of Spoke's smithy, and Delilah reveals that they had, but not how they know about it. Petra says that right now, the dwarves are being guarded by the Queen's men for a cut of their profits. The Hooded Lanterns, however, could offer protection instead. They would do this in exchange for their defensive knowledge and technology. Having them on their side would help bolster their technology, give them a means to make a better foothold in the city to take it over and restore it. Delilah and Morgan say that they will see what they can do, and Petra thanks them and goes on her way. On their way to the tavern, Noct and Ik stop at the chapel. Flamekeeper Hannah is so excited to see Noct, see that he is still alive. She is a little concerned with his company of a goblin, but believes that if the goblin has helped Noct, then he must have a bright soul. Hannah tells Noct that she has continued study since she last worked with him on contamination spells. She says that she may have something she would be willing to teach him, but that she needs to test her spell first. She absolutely refuses to test the spell on anything living, as that would make her no better than the rascals at the academy. But she heard that some of the most contaminated stuff in the city is actually the water in the sewers. She asks that when he is next in the city to grab some for her to experiment on. He agrees, saying that he will do what he can. Everyone reconvenes at the tavern and they exchange what they have found. It seems they have a choice with the dwarves, siding with the Hooded Lanterns or the Silver Order, and they're not sure which method to go with at this point. So they decide to deal with Spoke's smithy last. They decide instead to go to Reed Manor, as that seems the more pressing issue than a tavern that is alive in the city. Plus, the tavern is on the opposite side of the city, sort of closer to the Scar. Not really. They take a long rest and trek into the city in the morning. On the way to the city, they hear a loud boom boom, and a pulse of energy shakes through the city. The group fails some checks, and at a bridge across the Dran, they encounter some frenzied and strange delirium dregs. One has this chitinous armor on, two have rows and rows of teeth, a couple have multiple tentacles. Regardless, they all begin to fight. They take quite a few hits, and Zelda ends up going down once. Through quick wit and a lot of spell slinging and sword slashing that I can't remember exact turn order of, the group does come out on top. As they regroup after battle, Delilah puts together that did sound like a heartbeat. And it did come from the direction of the crater, which has piqued her interest further. Hi, Flinty. They return to their trek and find themselves at Reed Manor. They step through the gate and see two things. One, a toad on a fountain, which Zelda wants to capture immediately. She fails, and the toad goes off into the bushes. Delilah is also a little bit disappointed about lack of toad, and so she decides to turn into a frog. They also see two hulking, patrolling zombie-like ogres. That was the more important thing, but it's fine. The one turns toward Morgan, who has stepped into the garden first, and he goes, "What want?" Morgan says, "We came from the Hooded Lanterns to ask about potions." "Potions? This way." And the ogre steps aside to let them pass. Inside, they meet a scrawny-looking young man who asks what he can do for them. Morgan says they want to speak to Urine about the potions he's been making the Hooded Lanterns. The man looks at each of them a little bit nervously. He then escorts them into the dining hall and says he will bring Master Yorin shortly. Master Yorin arrives. He's a sickly-looking man with yellow teeth and nails, sores all over his skin. He has thinning hair and is short and plump. He demands, "Who sent you?" To which Morgan whispers, "He might actually be Master Yorin. He kind of smells like it, at least." And that's where the session ends. If you like what you're watching, consider supporting me on Patreon, the best way to support creators on YouTube. You can get behind the scenes, plus you can get ad-free versions of my videos. Also, live streams, there's shop discounts, hopefully some paper products coming out, definitely a magazine in the works. There's lots of stuff there. Link in the description. Things I could have done better. What do you think, Flinty? I wasn't really prepared for Reed Manor 100%. I had a feeling they would go there, but what I did was just a brief overview of that and all the other 3 possible directions they could have gone. I did that mostly because I knew if I did focus on Reed Manor, they would just not go there, you know, and then it would have been a waste. So this way I had a better overview of each one if they went in these other directions. I think I am overloading them a bit with the multiple factions want the same things quests, but since they haven't chosen a side, I kind of am trying to offer it all. And they're trying to play this like weird neutral ground, even though it's clear to me which factions they align with more. But yeah, I want them to realize that there are multiple ways to do any of these quests, not just murder hobo everything. The DM inspo thing went over well. That's where I have the players give each other inspiration instead of me giving out the inspiration, though I can still give out the inspiration. And I think it did help with roleplay and get people to listening to each other a little bit better, which I like. Zelda did not suffer anything from her curse this time, so that was good. I will say that I think Delilah, mom of Zelda, has backed off of Zelda's case a lot, and I think this is letting her make mistakes, which I think is good, but not quite enough. I think she still gets really frustrated with everyone else because they continue to tell her how to play. I know that they are just giving her all the options, but they do fight her a bit about them instead of just giving her them and letting her choose. I'm of the mindset that the best way for her to learn is to just do it the hard way. I mean, even though it is the hard way, it's still a valid way to learn, in my opinion. I don't like that she's super stubborn about a lot of things, but I think just letting her be stubborn about them would probably teach her more than them continuously giving her the correct response and then her just fine and doing it. You know what I mean? I don't think she's learning anything that way. She's just giving in because she wants them to stop arguing with her, not because she actually believes or listens to anything that they're saying. I'll say it's been lessening, but then the next session after this one, it gets a little bit rough. So I just don't know. I'm not sure how to fix this. No one has complained about it except for me, I guess. So, prep work. For prep work, I prepared all of Reed Manor, reading through everything more thoroughly. Actually, what I prepared for was if they went murder hobo in Reed Manor, and I literally did not plan anything for a peaceful resolution. Like, I really didn't prep anything if they decide not to fight him, because he would ask them to go to Queen's Park Garden in the inner city, and they are not quite high enough for that. So the plan was, regardless, they would level up to level 5 after their encounter with Master Urine, whether that is if they fight him or not, they would level up to level 5. If I had been thinking in hindsight after they had brought Harmon back, they should have leveled then. That would have been a good milestone to level them up, but it wasn't part of the timeline, so to speak, so I didn't think about it at the time. On top of Reed Manor, I also prepared the sewer encounter for when they get there. Prepping Reed Manor also meant going through and picking out what was in each apprentice's chest, what spell scrolls there are, what potions they were making, because the book just said uncommon potions and spell scrolls, which is great if you want to sub in some weird things, but not great if you were prepping like 45 minutes before session like I was. And so it did take me a little bit. I'm very nervous about Spoke's Smithy. I have no idea how they're going to solve that, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. But since I don't suspect they will be encountering that in next session, we're about to get into session 11 this weekend. Still haven't prepared that yet. That's that. On to the next one.